things happen, how to create. There's a lot of talk about creating your life and creating what you want and that sort of thing. And I like to think of it all as asking for something. Like when you're a little kid and you see, and if you've had kids, they ask for something. They go to the grocery store and they point at depending on how old they are, they point at a candy bar. I want that, or some cereal or whatever it is, right? And when they get a little older, then they're asking to use the car, and that asking goes on. And that's easy to understand. That is a verbal request. It goes out from your mouth and your vocal cords. But I want to broaden the idea of asking way bigger. And here's what I want you to think about. Every breath you take, you're asking for something. Now, if I breathe, I'm asking to keep my body healthy. But I want to think about in your mind, when you're wishing for something, I wish this would happen. I wish that would happen. I want to be done working today. I want to make more money. I want to be happier. I want to. And you're thinking all this, and that is a request. It's a weak, wimpy, not very powerful request. So think of the kid. If the little kid's just walking through the store and just looks at a candy bar and thinks about it, there is a request there. It's unspoken and it's energetic, but it probably doesn't get much action. So if they get verbal and they make some noise and say, I want that candy bar, then the parent decides yes or no, usually probably no, because maybe they ask for that all the time and there's too many or something. I don't know. Maybe yes, whatever. But the power of the ask depends on how you ask. So let's think about selling. If you sell stuff, I'm a coach. I sell stuff all the time. I don't ever really sell. I enroll people and I have clients and all kinds of stuff, but I never sell anything. But if I go to enroll, or you do, a used car salesman, not even used, but a car salesman, they come up to you and they talk to you. What are you looking for, et cetera, et cetera. And they are enrolling you in them. They're enrolling you in the conversation. If they come up and say to you or me, you're here, you probably don't want anything. You're probably just looking, right? I know you probably don't. You really don't want anything. And they turn their shoulder towards you like they're going to leave. The message that communicates to you is they're not very interested. They don't want to talk to you and they don't have time. And it doesn't matter if you wanted a car or not, or if you're a little bit serious or a lot. The method of their requesting to get acquainted, so they were asking to get acquainted with you, etc. And if, on the other hand, they're very interested in you, they ask nice questions, they're nice, they notice, they say, I don't want to bother you, but just checking to see if you need anything. Can I check back? You look around. I check back in a few minutes, 10, 15 minutes, see if you're okay. I'm going to be right over there if you need something, and do it in a very nice, non-threatening, non-pushy way. Then you're like, sure, no problem. I've been there, so have you, right? So it is not, if you want to create something, and by create something, I'm intentionally not saying I want to have that. You want to create a circumstance where you have a thing. You're having an experience, you're having some more money, or you're having a better relationship, or you're happier with yourself, or you're more connected with God, or you can do more push-ups. I want the circumstance where I can do more push-ups. How you ask for something is way more important than anything else. If I ask with the expectation of failure, I create failure. If I ask with the expectation of success, I'm far more likely to create success. Now, if I ask you to do something for me, you may not. And you may say no, or I can't right now, or I don't want to, or I hate your guts, or I'll do it later. You may say a lot of things, and I don't control that, but we influence it dramatically. And how we go about that has a big influence on whether we get what we want or what we're trying to create, whether we create the world we're trying to create. So if you're in a relationship, for example, and you want some attention from your mate and you're demanding or needy about it, you're not going to have as much success as you will if you're kind or if you are considerate, or, so there are ways to enhance the power of asking. Now, I saw a little video a little while ago from Steve, a friend of mine who's a coach. He lives in Phoenix. And he was talking about this asking, and he talked about growing our ability to ask. And I like that idea because you grow your ability to do anything. When you do something, even if it's hard to start with, it gets easier over time. Not because the thing itself has changed, but because your ability to do it is. Play the piano, I write music, I write books. And the first time I wrote a book was difficult. The second time was difficult, not quite as much. And you get the drill. So when I practice a song on the piano, I make mistakes the first time. I don't like the rhythm. I don't like what I'm doing. And then it gets easier, not because the notes changed or the song changed, but because my ability, my understanding, my energy in the situation has increased. So asking, however you ask, whether you ask in prayer, whether you ask someone directly, all of those things, you develop the ability to do it. And you develop it in several ways. It's not just the courage to speak the words. That's one piece. Another thing that develops is your ability to communicate and connect. Your ability to be present with the person so that they perceive, they understand, they experience your request in a different way. I'll give you some specific examples. I meet people a lot. I set up my day to meet people and network and stuff like that. And almost always people ask me, I always ask people, how can I help you? What can I do for you? I find out what they do and what they need and what's going on because I want to know. And if I can do something, I do. I introduce people all the time. I'm a super connector, and I connect people to what I think is valuable for them or the other person. But I can only do that when I ask. And so when I do that, especially if I've got something good for them, they always return. Reciprocity, Cialdini's reciprocity. What can I do for you? And here is the magic of that muscle of asking. My requests are often the same. They differ depending on the person and the situation, but often I'm asking about my goal of 300 million people. Now, I have a goal to reach 300 million people, not because I want a feather that says I reach 300 million people, not because I want bragging rights, none of that. I have a vision. I have a vision of a world where 300 million more people, and that's my goal this year, have realized something, and that is that you are creating your life. Literally, you can think of it as alternative realities. You can think of it as transurfing. There's lots of names for this, but you and I, we create our life by what we think and the energy we send out. Well, the same is true for making money. It's true for relationships. It's true for happiness. We create that 100% all the time. We're creating. Lots of the times unconsciously, just half-ass, right? So if you want to ask the universe, either with your thought energy, your spoken energy, with your relationship capital, with your cash, if you want to ask, then it behooves us, makes a lot of sense to get really good at asking. So when people come back after I've done what I can for them, the very best I can, and love them in a little conversation of 15 or 20 or 30 minutes or an hour, and they ask, what can I do? And I say, well, you can help me if you want to. Do you want to? And almost always they say yes. And most of the time it feels very sincere, and you can read energy. So can I? And then I say, well, the most important thing for me right now is to help get me in front of, or get my message, or not my message, but to reach 300 million people. And I talk about my podcast, and I talk about my LA Talk radio show, and I talk about books and programs that I have to help people with messages. So by that time, I know if they've got a message, if they're busy, if they've got a purpose-driven life, and I ask them about that. And so I'll invite them to be on one of my shows, or ask them if that interests them, if they want help with their message and that sort of thing. Or I'll ask them, well, I'd love it. Will you be willing to share my podcast or one of my shows with someone as a friend for them, to love them and lift them and bless them? And so they ask about it and so forth. And what happens is because we've created the safe and powerful space, they almost always say yes, but they say it with a conviction and power that I know it's true, and I make it easy because I give them a link and so forth. Now, I'll give you an example. I just went and got my hair cut about 2 hours ago, and the barber was a young fellow. He must have been in his late 20s. And he asked me as we went along, making talk, what I did. And I told him I was a coach and an author and a podcaster. And a podcaster, click. Because right now, in the last several months, 12 months, the podcast universe is exploding, right? We had the big thing in the United States with Joe Rogan and podcasts, and they're just sort of exploding, influencers everywhere. So when I said podcaster, he, what's your podcast about? And he dove in lots and lots of questions, and I told him, and right there in the middle of the haircut, he stopped, he got it on the phone, looked it up. It's called Your Ultimate Life. And so he made sure I spelled it right. He showed me, and of course it was me on the cover, and he said, is that you, right? And I said, yeah. So he subscribed right then. He said, all right, well, I'm subscribed to that. I love that. And, and it was because he asked. And I asked if he would share it and spread it, and he was excited. I'm listening. I need that. And I was talking about how we create our lives in self-creation. So the title of this little live stream, I said, Create Joy, Create Money. And that's because we have this idea that creating life and happiness is separate than creating money, and they're stacked right on top of each other. There's lots of grumpy ways to create money. There's lots of stressful ways to create money, and there's really fun and joyful and easy ways to create money. Well, I like easy and joyful. I do stressful or difficult things too, hard work, physical work and stuff, more earlier in my life than now. But there are easy and joyful ways, and you know why? Money is just follows value. So if you create value, something someone values, they'll pay you for it. Of course they will. Look at what people are spending their money on right now. All kinds of stuff to feel good. It's some value to them. And so one of the things I have learned to do and specialize in is helping you figure out what your value is that you love doing so you can create money. Because people will pay you when you give them value. Now, you got to find the right people. I talk about your ultimate life, and someone who in their life is angry or frustrated and doesn't care about that, they're not going to find value. They're going to find the encouragement and the things that I give maybe hollow, maybe less interesting. I don't know. But someone that's looking to grow, to serve, to love, to create, they find value, they subscribe, and they share. And this is all about developing your value, developing your skills, and as Steve said, developing your ability to ask. And it's not just verbally. It is the energy and attitude of your asking. Are you asking in love? Are you asking for yourself? I need, I want. Or is it in the spirit of service and giving? Yes, I need a pallet of canned beans. Why? Because I'm serving some food over here for these people. Well, that's a completely different message. So create. You're already creating. This is an invitation to create joy, to create cash. It's unbelievable how much money is laying around for you and for me to just pick up and have. You can have all you want, but you do have to go pick it up. So I invite you, create on purpose, develop your asking practice, your asking muscle, and your asking energy. Like I saw in that thing earlier today. And remember, every breath you take, you're asking. You're asking passively, you're asking aggressively, you're asking quietly, you're asking noisily, you're asking inside, you're asking outside. You are telling the universe what you want. You're telling the conscious unified field, the spirit, God. You're telling that entire expanse, which is ever and omnipresent, everywhere present, and listening. And you're going to get what you want. Boy, that brings me up short because it's like, what am I broadcasting? Am I broadcasting grumpy crap? No. You're going to get what you want. So ask well, ask in love, ask in service, create and grow. You can have whatever you want. Really. Isn't that fun? If I can help you in any way, let me know. KellenFlukigerMedia.com. Go there. There's a contact form. Let's chat. I am committed to reaching 300 million people with a message of purpose, prosperity, power. It's time we quit settling. Addiction to mediocrity is just burying us alive and eating our creativity and joy. Why would we settle for that? No more settling. You are destined for awesomeness. Let's grab it. We'll see you tomorrow.